It has been over a month since I bought my iPhone 15 Pro Max, and while this phone launched with its fair share of controversies, it is the most pro iPhone that Apple has ever made, with numerous improvements that make the iPhone go from just a smartphone to a professional camera, and with enough power to potentially be a gaming console. But were these changes enough to justify a year-over-year upgrade from my iPhone 14 Pro Max, and just how concerned should you be about the durability of the titanium body on the iPhone 15 Pro Max? So we all know at this point what an iPhone 15 Pro Max looks like, and the common comment I keep seeing online everywhere is, it's the same design as the iPhone 14 Pro Max. I don't know why I went a little Jerry Seinfeld there, but I did. And while to the untrained eye it does look the same, it is hardly the same design, and Apple has made some noticeable improvements to almost every aspect of the iPhone's design language. The top quality of life benefit is that this phone is just so much more comfortable to hold in the hand, and that's mostly due to the more rounded corners, which just rest in your hand like soft molded clay. The shrinking of the bezels also makes the phone just a hair bit smaller, and while I thought this wouldn't make a difference in real-world usage, I turned out to be completely wrong. It actually makes the phone a bit more manageable in the hand, especially when using it one-handed, and it slides easier in and out of my pocket. Of course, the big material change this year is Apple switching over to titanium from stainless steel, which makes the phone 10% lighter than the previous Pro Max model. And these small changes, they go a long way. They make the entire combination of this design amazing. The soft glass back, the more matte titanium sides, the slightly smaller and more rounded body make it the most comfortable Pro iPhone ever. I think the best mark of how well something has improved is to go back and use the old design, and whenever I pick up my old iPhone 14 Pro Max, my hands are just met with cold, slippery stainless steel, sharper edges, and a heavier design that made me realize just how much better the iPhone 15 Pro design is. I've also had time to compare it against my Pixel 8 Pro and my S23 Ultra, and while I think that the Pixel 8 Pro is pretty comfortable, the 15 Pro Max still edges it out, and the S23 Ultra in comparison to both of those phones feel like a sharp edge brick. Samsung, you need to change that design pronto. My one and only complaint is the back of the iPhone, where the titanium frame meets the glass back. It is ever so slightly raised, almost like a small lip that I can sometimes feel when I rub it against my hand or my fingers. Like, you could just feel like a small little edge there. It's a small complaint, but one that I would like to see fixed in a follow-up to make the phone design more seamlessly melded with the back glass and the titanium frame. Of course, after a month, you're probably wondering, am I facing any durability issues with the new titanium frame? And I don't blame you. Titanium is a new material on the iPhone, and it could have its fair share of issues. But I have to say, so far, my phone has held up just fine. The titanium sides show fingerprints less than my 14 Pro Max's stainless steel frame, and they don't scratch as easy. The one design area where I'm still mixed is the action button. In theory, I thought that this would really change the way that I use my phone, but I'm still not used to the button being there. Right now I have it mapped open my camera, but I often forget about it being there and just go right to the camera app. I also think on the Pro Max model, the action button is just a bit too high to engage sometimes one-handed. Like, you kind of gotta stretch up here. It's a little awkward, and I'm still trying to get over the muscle memory of having used the mute switch ever since I owned an iPhone, which kind of feels like a long time. I'm kind of getting like an existential crisis over here talking about it. But perhaps the winner of the Greg's Gadgets giveaway will find the action button more to their liking, as they always keep their phone in mute. Yes, I combined all the entries into a random raffle, and we have a winner! Congratulations, Chong W4361, or as the display name says, W Church, on winning the new iPhone 15 Pro. To claim your prize, please DM me on either Twitter or Instagram, which you can find links to both of those social media channels in the description, or on the screen right now. And I will tell you how to verify your account to claim your iPhone 15 Pro. And also a big thank you to everyone for entering the giveaway. I went through so many comments, and I really wish I had the ability to give everyone in the Greg's Gadgets community an iPhone, right? Like, that would be awesome, but I can't. But don't lose hope. If you didn't win this time, I'm still planning to do more giveaways in the future, so stay tuned. And again, if you didn't win, I appreciate your support. And as always, I thank you for being a viewer. Thank you so much for watching my channel. Better luck next time. All right, enough appreciation. Losers. Let's talk about the A17 Pro chip. This is Apple's first 3nm chip, and on paper, it is an impressive chip that is rivaling performance of what you can find on Apple's first generation M1 Max, and that alone is an accomplishment worthy of praise. And yes, general performance on the A17 Pro is fast. Opening apps is snappy, swiping through iOS 17 is responsive, and there's no delays when opening the camera app or zooming in on photos. But that is to be expected at this point, right? iPhones have and continue to have why did I say it like that? Continue to have stellar performance, and it would be almost unthinkable for a modern-day iPhone not to be able to keep up with its own operating system. I would say the most noticeable day-to-day life improvement is the increase in memory on the Pro models from 6 gigabytes of memory to 8 gigabytes. I have noticed that apps in the background stay open far longer than before, and there's times where I go back to an app like YouTube a day later and find the video I was previously watching still loaded up in the player, which is always a nice surprise. Performance on everything in general has been great, but that was to be expected. What I wasn't expecting was Apple's promise of AAA level gaming being possible on the iPhone 15 Pro Max. And my number one question was, can this phone, with no active cooling, actually run games that I played a year ago on my PlayStation 5? Well, I waited and waited, but yes, after more than a month of waiting for the first console-level game to come out on the iPhone 15 Pro Max, it is here with Resident Evil Village. And I have to say, wow, this game runs impressively well on the default settings, especially for an iPhone. I was amazed that I had a game I literally had to play on a dedicated console a few years ago, and it was just right here on my iPhone. I could take it with me anywhere. And performance seemed smooth for the sections I played through, and I was kind of amazed how deep you can dig into the settings on an iPhone game. Like when Apple said console level quality, I think they kind of undersold it because you can actually change the resolution and frame rate of the game just like you can on a PC. Now, as impressive as this gaming feat is, there are still some issues with iPhone gaming. Don't expect to play this on a touchscreen. I mean, you can, but when I played this way for a few minutes, the experience was, it wasn't great. So ideally, it's recommended that you use a dedicated controller, and if you're really looking to be mobile, you probably want something like this accessory, which is a backbone controller, so you can just plug it directly into the controller, and then you can, just hold it in your hands. It's a really nice accessory if you plan to do a lot of gaming on your phone. And like I demoed in my gaming video, you can even hook up an external display to the iPhone 15 Pro Max and play Resident Evil Village on there. And listen, I get the iPhone gaming experience isn't there yet. Resident Evil Village is the only AAA game available on the iPhone right now, but I think it's an impressive feat that it's actually running on the phone. And I think for the future, it's really cool. Apple has been making these chips stronger and stronger every year, and it's kind of why? Why are they making these chips stronger? And I think this use case, it's an actual use case of something where, I couldn't do this on my iPhone 14 Pro Max. Resident Evil Village and all these AAA games that are coming to the iPhone 15 Pro are exclusive to the Pro models because it needs that A17 Pro chip to run. If you have a regular 15, you cannot play Resident Evil Village on that phone. To me, this is just the start. It's not perfect at this point, but it's a good start, and it has me excited for the future of iPhone gaming and just Apple in the gaming space in general. And yeah, I think gaming is probably one of the more intensive things I've done on my iPhone 15 Pro Max, but even after gaming for hour-long sessions, this phone was not even close to overheating, and that problem should be fixed for everyone after iOS 17.03 was released, so, overheating issues on this phone turned out to be a non-issue, like I kind of predicted. Furthermore, battery life has only gotten better for me since the launch of the iPhone 15 Pro Max with those software update fixes. My average screen on time is usually around 6 hours, which doesn't sound like a lot, but I also spend a lot of time streaming audio in the background throughout the day on a cellular connection, which is why you can see my screen idle time is actually pretty high as well. But overall, I'm reliably getting a day's worth of battery life on my Pro Max, which is what I need. But if I was to be honest, I would love to see more improvements in battery life for those heavy usage days to really get rid of my battery anxiety, and that is especially true for the smaller Pro model, which has worse battery life compared to the Pro Max. For example, if I'm going out all day and using the video camera on this, I can still drain this iPhone's battery life no problem. But that's not how most people use their phones, I get that. But again, you're never gonna say no to more battery life. Now, going back to something I touched on before is USB-C. I saved it for this section because of how big of a change it's been for how I use my iPhone 15 Pro Max. I know Android users are laughing. I don't really care, Android users. I don't care about you, okay? This personally has changed the way I, Greg, use my iPhone. So yes, Having USB-C means that charging all of my devices, like my MacBook, my Switch, even other Android phones, and now my iPhone, right, can all be done with the same cable. And while that is nice, granted, the main reason USB-C has been so game-changing to me isn't that. It is the accessories I can now hook up to my iPhone easily. So, like I mentioned before, hooking an iPhone up to an external monitor with USB-C, like the studio display, is dead simple, right? You just connect the cable to the iPhone and then to the studio display, and bam, it's done. And that was an eye-opener to me about the potential that the iPhone could have in the future as an all-in-one connected device. Like, if the iPhone is going to be a gaming machine, having the ability to hook it up to an external display pretty easily, it's a good ability to have. I was also surprised how well it worked with my existing USB-C hubs, my gaming controllers, and other devices. They were all ready to plug and play into my iPhone with no hiccups. But that all pales in comparison to something that is currently very important to me: the faster data transfer speeds that the USB-C port brings. You see, I have been using the iPhone 15 Pro Max a lot as a video camera because it's small, it's always on me, and it's the fastest, most reliable camera system I have for shooting videos on this channel. I even did a tweet where I said, this is like the best camera system ever invented. And I didn't mean that purely from like a quality standpoint. Like, obviously a dedicated camera can take better photos and better videos, but the fact that this thing is always on you, the fact that it has made photo and video taking so easy for so many users, I think, like, when you think about the power of like social media and like how you can see like news real time from people just uploading videos from their iPhone, I really think is the best video camera system ever conceived for most people, because you don't really have to know what you're doing to get good photos and good videos out of this device. But if you know what you're doing, you can get better video quality out of the iPhone 15 Pro Max, which I'll talk about a little bit later. But I have to say, one of my biggest complaints with the iPhone 14 Pro Max was how long it took me to get those video files off of the device with a lightning cable or with AirDrop. It basically meant that on my iPhone 14 Pro Max, I never used the higher bitrate provided by ProRes Video, because even though those videos looked better and they had less compression, it was too much hassle than it was worth to use them for my own content, because it took forever to get it off the device. Those are very large files. Well, now with the 15 Pro Max, that faster data transfer speed with the USB-C port means I can offload that footage in minutes directly into my video editor, which has been a huge time saver and a big improvement to my workflow. The USB-C port also means that you can now shoot directly onto external drives, which is also really important because that ProRes video footage that I mentioned earlier takes up a large amount of space. In fact, in my day in the life video, I use my iPhone 15 Pro as my only camera shooting ProRes log directly onto external drives. However, there were a few hiccups with making sure that I had the right USB-C cable. A lot of the ones I had were slower ones rated just for charging, or 5 gigabit per second ones that were faster than the lightning cable, but not as fast as the 10 gigabit per second maximum speed you can get on the iPhone 15 Pro Max's USB-C port. So make sure you have the fastest rated USB-C cables. And I have to say, one negative of using external drives while connected to your iPhone 15 Pro is that they are a pretty big battery drainer, considering the external drive is drawing power from your iPhone's battery. Like, it's all running through the USB-C port. But in general, this ProRes log video, it looks fantastic on the iPhone 15 Pro Max. You get so much more detail and so much more to work with for color grading than the standard 4K files. I am impressed with the color grading I can do with my own footage, and I'm even more impressed seeing what talented people online are using this smartphone video feature for. It really is blurring the lines from a quality standpoint between a real dedicated camera and a smartphone camera. And in general, the camera system on the iPhone 15 Pro Max has just really impressed me. Apple's decision to take advantage of their bigger 48 megapixel camera system by binning the default photos now down to 24 megapixels instead of 12 like they did on the 14 Pro Max was a huge boost to the default clarity and resolution of iPhone photos. And besides that, the whole computational photography pipeline just seems to be reworked to take advantage of that bigger camera sensor, leading to photos with really good colors, great skin tones, and improved HDR processing. The main wide-angle lens in particular is capable of taking some really nice shots that, combined with the additional focal lengths offered by the 1x lens, give it a bit more control when framing your shots with the highest resolution and detail possible compared to the 14 Pro Max. The biggest change, of course, is the new 5x lens on the 15 Pro Max, and the longer zoom range is something I desperately wanted on my 14 Pro Max. Thankfully, Apple's implementation here I think is a good middle ground between a longer reach than their previous 3x lens, but still maintaining good optical quality, especially when you have plenty of light. So obviously it helped me snap pictures of things that are farther away, but it has also helped me frame shots with a different perspective. I really love the 5x lens, especially for taking photos of architecture. Yeah, I put architecture in the script instead of buildings, you know, gotta be fancy here. Now these shots are ones I'm really fond of, and these shots just weren't possible on my previous iPhone with the limited 3x reach. I also have to give credit to Apple for the lens stabilization. You can really notice how good it is when zooming in past 10x on digital zoom, and the little preview window of where you're zooming stays rock solid even when your hands are shaky, and that is something I have had trouble with when using other smartphones with longer zoom lenses. And I gotta say, quick shout out to using the 5x lens for video. That is where I think it really shines because you can get in much farther. And then again, that tracking with video, excellent. The zoom camera obviously isn't perfect though, and I would say that the 10x digital zoom, even though you can go all the way up to 25x, you're gonna wanna keep it at 10x or around there, because if you do punch into around 20x, you're gonna get a pretty noisy and low detail shot. Like, I think next year, if I can make an improvement to the 15 Pro Max's zoom lens, I would add a bigger megapixel sensor. So that way, when you are using the digital zoom feature, Apple would have more information to work with to help clean up those shots. And I think the 12 megapixel limit that the current sensor has for the 5x lens is too small. I would also say the lens currently struggles a lot with low light shots, and because the iPhone automatically selects lenses, sometimes in low light shots, the iPhone will instead choose the standard 1x lens even if you are zooming in digitally pretty far. And if it does do that, it basically means you're getting a grainy, noisy, unusable shot. So I would kind of like to see some sort of warning indication that the iPhone is switching lenses, or just give us the ability to defaultly pick it. You're giving us a lot of pro camera features at this point, Apple. I know you don't want to confuse the average user, but I feel like this would be pretty helpful. All in all though, the combination of video quality and picture quality really make this such a competent smartphone camera system, and with the addition of USB-C and external drive support, it turns the iPhone into a legitimate camera rig that I think finally makes the iPhone live up to the Pro name it adopted 4 years ago. The iPhone 15 Pro Max has truly changed the way that I use my iPhone, and it's fixed a lot of the issues I had previously with my iPhone 14 Pro Max. I really think that its reputation as a minor upgrade isn't justified with my own use cases. This is the biggest year-over-year upgrade to me personally for an iPhone since the iPhone 11, and I love how good it is. So if you're on the fence, I highly recommend the iPhone 15 Pro Max. And honestly, even as a year-over-year upgrade over the 14 Pro Max, I think it is worth it for some users if you can take advantage of these new USB-C workflows. All right, but that is my review of the iPhone 15 Pro Max 1 month later. But let me know in the comments below, what do you think of the iPhone 15 Pro Max? Also, give a like if you found this video helpful, and subscribe to see more. And hey, I'll catch you in the next one.